They called her a witch, a woman who spoke too wisely, healed too quickly, and defied too many powerful men. One night, flames devoured her home, and with it, the only peace their village had ever known. But months later, when the harvests failed and the children began to die, the same people who had cursed her name came crawling back, begging for her protection. This is not a tale of magic, but of power, fear, and how history turns the truth into superstition. It's the story of a woman who challenged her time, and the empire that tried to erase her. Before we begin, if you love stories of hidden truths, forgotten women, and the dark corners of history, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss the untold side of the past. In the spring of 1624, in a small valley of the Bohemian Highlands, there lived a woman named Mara Velinska. Her cottage stood at the edge of the forest, where the land sloped down toward the river. The villagers called it the Witch's Edge, though in truth, Mara was no witch. She was a healer, the kind who knew the rhythm of the earth better than any priest or doctor. Her mother had taught her how to treat fevers with willow bark and how to stop bleeding with pressed moss. But what frightened people most was not her skill, it was her silence. Mara spoke little, and when she did, she spoke with unsettling precision. Her eyes saw through men's lies like glass. In a time when women were meant to bow, she met the gaze of every man who threatened her. To the elders, this was arrogance. To the wives, it was envy disguised as fear. And to the church, it was danger. That year, the plague had begun to spread through nearby towns, creeping closer each month. The priests preached that God's wrath had come upon them for their sins. The people wanted someone to blame, and Mara, unmarried, learned, and independent, was an easy answer. Her troubles began with the death of Bartek Kolar, the blacksmith's son. He had come to Mara with a deep wound on his leg from a forge accident. She cleaned it, wrapped it in herbs, and told him to rest. But the infection spread. He died 2 weeks later. The villagers whispered that Mara had cursed him for refusing to pay her in grain. His mother claimed she had seen Mara watching her home at dusk. By midsummer, a mob formed. They did not call it a trial, they called it a cleansing. Led by Father Gregor, the parish priest, and Tomas Kolar, the grieving blacksmith, they surrounded her cottage one night under the red glow of torches. Mara opened the door quietly, not in panic, but in disbelief. "What have I done?" she asked, her voice steady. "You have turned from God," the priest declared, holding the cross before her. "You consort with darkness." Her face did not flinch. "I consort with the earth, Father, and it is your flock that brings me the dying." They dragged her into the village square. Some cried out for mercy, others shouted for fire. Even those who once came to her for help dared not speak. Fear made them complicit. They set her house ablaze. The flames climbed high, swallowing the only home she had ever known. But the villagers could not bring themselves to kill her. Perhaps it was superstition, or guilt, or the way her eyes, even through the smoke, seemed to accuse them silently. Father Gregor banished her instead. She was forced to walk into the forest barefoot, taking nothing but a pouch of herbs tied to her waist. They thought she would die there, and for a while she did vanish. The woods swallowed her name, but by autumn, the valley began to change. The fields, once golden, turned gray with rot. Livestock miscarried. The river that had never failed began to dry at its edges. And then came the sickness. children with fevers that no prayer could break. The same priest who condemned Mara now spent nights kneeling before the altar, whispering apologies to a God who did not answer. Desperation turned to regret. Whispers returned, but this time with fear of a different kind. "She warned us," said one woman. "Before she left, she said the land would remember." One evening, as the sun bled across the horizon, Thomas Kollar's wife stumbled into the forest searching for herbs, clutching her infant son, his skin pale and burning. She followed the river until she saw a faint smoke in the distance, rising from a place that should have been empty. There, among the birches, stood a small hut built from charred timber, unmistakably familiar. Inside, a figure bent over a bowl of steaming herbs. When she turned, the mother gasped. It was Mara. Her face was thinner now, her hands rougher, but her eyes, those same clear, haunting eyes, met hers without anger. "You came," Mara said softly. The woman fell to her knees. "Please, save him." Mara hesitated, her expression unreadable. Then she took the child gently and pressed her palm to his chest. "You burned my home," she whispered, not accusing, just stating a fact. "And now you come for mercy." The mother began to weep. "We didn't know. We didn't understand." For a long moment, the only sound was the crackle of the fire. Then Mara spoke again, almost to herself. "They never do, until it's too late." She began her work, quietly, methodically, with the same hands that had once healed the village. By dawn, the fever had broken. The child slept peacefully in his mother's arms. When the woman looked up, Mara was gone. Only the faint smoke from the fire remained, curling into the pale morning sky. That night, the villagers heard a bell toll in the distance, though no one knew from where. And Father Gregor, the man who had condemned her, woke to find a bundle of dried herbs at his door, tied with red thread. He froze. It was the same kind Mara used to bless the sick. He looked toward the forest, and for the first time, whispered her name in prayer. But when the sun rose the next morning, the village square was covered in ash, fresh, cold, and scattered, as if from a fire no one had lit. Through the harsh winter that followed, the valley fell silent. The villagers rarely spoke of Mara Velinska aloud, as if her name itself carried the weight of their shame. But one by one, they began to visit the forest. At first it was the mothers, carrying sick children or barren hopes. Then the farmers, whose soil had turned lifeless. Then even the proud men who once spat at her door. Each time, Mara helped them, not with spells or incantations, but with the same knowledge they once mocked. She mixed honey with crushed herbs for the coughing, stitched wounds with flax fibers, and whispered practical advice. Boil water, bury the dead far from the well. Wash your hands with ash and soap. It was reason, not sorcery, but reason was a rare gift in 1624. Yet she never returned to the village. Her cottage in the woods became both sanctuary and confession booth. They came trembling, leaving bread or wool at her threshold, never daring to look her in the eyes. Some called her the forest widow. Others, quietly, began to call her the protector. By the time spring returned, Mara's quiet exile had become the valley's fragile salvation. The plague retreated, the river filled again, and a strange peace settled. But beneath it lay guilt. Father Gregor felt it most. Every Sunday his sermons faltered. His hands shook when he raised the chalice. The people saw it, but no one spoke. It was as if the village itself feared forgiveness. Then one morning, a royal messenger arrived on horseback, bearing the black seal of Count Victor Albrecht, the local noble who ruled the valley under the banner of the Habsburg crown. Word had reached his estate that a heretic woman in the woods was gathering followers and defying church authority. The accusation had not come from strangers. It came from within the village. The messenger demanded Mara's surrender. Father Gregor protested quietly. "She has done no harm," he said. "She heals our sick." The messenger sneered. "Then let the priests heal them." The count does not tolerate defiance. By dusk, soldiers entered the valley. The villagers watched from behind their shutters as steel clashed against conscience. They marched toward the forest, torches flickering under the trees. Mara knew they were coming. She'd seen the smoke long before they reached her hut. Still, she did not flee. She gathered her herbs into a small satchel, placed it on the table, and sat quietly by the fire. When the door burst open, she looked up with calm resignation. The captain of the soldiers, a young man barely older than 20, hesitated when he saw her. She did not look like a witch, just a woman with tired eyes and steady hands. "Mara Velinska," he announced. "You are summoned to appear before Count Albrecht on charges of heresy, false healing, and defiance of church and crown." Her lips curved into the faintest, saddest smile. "Heresy," she repeated softly. "It seems truth is always heresy before it is wisdom." They bound her wrists and took her through the village. The people gathered silently, eyes downcast, ashamed. No one moved to defend her. No one dared. Only Father Gregor stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Please," he said to the captain, "she saved our lives." The count must hear that. The captain's jaw tightened. "He will." Mara was brought to the count's manor, a towering stone keep surrounded by dying vineyards. The count was a man of iron reputation, loyal to the empire and the church, but burdened by years of loss. His wife had died the previous winter, his son of fever soon after. When he heard the name Mara Velinska, something flickered in his eyes, recognition, perhaps, or disbelief. He dismissed the guards and faced her alone. "I know who you are," he said finally. "You were the healer who treated my wife before she died." Mara nodded. "I did all I could." The count's voice hardened. "They say you defy God, that you mock the priesthood." "I mock ignorance," she replied, "and I serve no power that fears truth." The count turned away, his hands trembling slightly. "You cost me everything," he said bitterly. "And yet," he paused, struggling with words, "and yet I cannot condemn you." For a long silence, the only sound was the crackle of the fire. Then, from the shadows, Father Gregor stepped forward, summoned by guilt and courage alike. "My lord," he said, "if you punish her, you condemn the very hands that saved your people. There are no devils here, only your subjects who wish to live." The count looked from Gregor to Mara. For the first time in months, he saw not rebellion, but humanity. "Go," he said quietly. "Leave this place before they find another reason to fear you." Mara bowed her head. "Fear is the only harvest that never fails, my lord." She left before dawn. By the time the villagers learned of it, she was already gone, beyond the forest, beyond the reach of those who once called her a witch. Years later, travelers spoke of a woman who healed soldiers on distant battlefields, who asked for no payment but silence. Some said she was a ghost of mercy. Others swore she was still alive, walking the borderlands between war and plague. No one knew for certain, but in that Bohemian valley, long after her name faded, one thing remained. Beside the ruins of her burned cottage, a single wild rose bush grew, blooming every year, even in the coldest spring. The villagers never touched it. They simply left offerings there, bread, flowers, or a whispered apology carried by the wind. And so the woman they called a witch became what she had always been, a healer, a warning, and a mirror of their own fear. History is not written by truth. It is written by fear and by those who mistake understanding for threat. Mara Velinska's story reminds us that what we destroy in ignorance often becomes the very thing we later pray for. If stories like this move you, tales of forgotten courage, human cruelty, and redemption lost to time, subscribe to our channel to uncover more true stories the world tried to bury.